Alright, peace, people. So actually, what I wanted to discuss real quick, let's put on the damn shades, a little sunny out here now. Some of the stuff I'll be going over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be dealing, again, as I said, leading up to the ritual on the 22nd, the ritual of the Sith, the Dark Lords. What I'm going to tie it into, I call it the coming of the Sith invasion, or coming of the Sith, which is really Seth, Prince of Darkness. The whole precept is really around that in essence, regardless of the concept or the idea that they'll use the name of the title. Because as I said before, when you phonetically listen, I mentioned that many times in the past in older videos, when you phonetically listen to the word Sith, it's very equivalent to the Greek Seth. But before we get into that, just a couple quick things. Spoke with Father Sebastian, so we got the issue corrected as far as last night having the technical difficulties. Turns out he was, not him, but he was in the hospital visiting somebody, and that was the issue. But anyway, we'll have him back on February 7th. Which will be next Thursday night. We're going to redo it all over again, get it right this time. And obviously have the connection issues fixed, so I've posted that. I put that back up there, so we'll do it all over again and get it right. I also have just been in contact with Richard K. Page, who wrote the book Luciferian Alter Ego, and we're waiting to get confirmation either on the 14th or the 7th of March. We'll get him on. That's something I wouldn't want to miss, because he's put out a lot of good books on Luciferianism, and in my opinion, the methodology and the approach, he's on a more higher mental level, minus all that, religious dogma that I think is enshrouded sometimes in those paths. He deals with it from a perspective, in my opinion, even when with dealing with magic and sorcery, tapping into the higher aspects of your subconscious mind. I did some shows on his material in the past, so I'm looking forward to have him come on and share some of his work, especially if you've read the Alter Ego book. I think one of the unique things in that book is the ritual for the chakras, how a Luciferian works with their chakras, etc. So I'm looking forward to getting him on. We'll confirm that date by today. It'll definitely either be the 14th or the 7th, whichever one works for him. And we'll definitely tune in for that show. But again, what we're going to be focusing on, and the shows I'll be doing in between, to get people, ready, or whether you're coming to the ritual or not is irrelevant, but just to put that knowledge and energy out there in the ethers. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to really connect it to this whole concept of Seth, which is another title for Set. Even when you look in the trilogy of the Sith, whether you look at any of the high-ranking Sith, such as Darth Vader, etc., Darth Vader would be that embodiment of the Prince of Darkness, right? We're going to tie it into the coming of the Sith, and the Sith, warriors, fighters for the dark side, whatever you want to call it. Very similar to the 72 companions of Sutuk, Set, or Seth, however you want to pronounce it, right? We will show how that represents us on this path, using all those dark side, quote-unquote, concepts and ideologies. Now, the ritual and the work that we're going to be getting ready to be, getting prepared to do at the end of the month, with just putting some out there, because when you're going through an initiatic ritual like that, obviously I don't want to ruin it in its entirety, and I won't do that for those participating. But when you're doing initiatic type of work, it's going to be focused on strengthening the will and the willpower. Why is that important when dealing with black magic and the dark side? Well, it's very important because one of the precepts of black, or greater black magic, I should say, is enforcing your will. You've heard me say this many times before. Enforcing your will to adjust or alter the outcome of a situation in your favor. That's what a Sith does. They enforce their will on with whatever situation they see fit that's going to be beneficial for him or her. And that really is an aspect of greater black magic. But to get to that level spiritually, there is ritualistic work that can be done via this path to exercises, rituals, experiments, which I want to make sure that's a different type of work in itself. Experiments, rituals, etc., to sharpen that, right? We have a technique called the sharpening of the blade. I won't elaborate on that too much here because that'll be part of the working that we're going to do at the end of the month. But it's all centered and focused around you accessing your higher mental faculties, your mental powers, opening up portions and aspects of your psyche so you can tap in on that level. You will really understand through this concept, all is mental. Mental is all. The universe is mental. And in Sith philosophy, Sith alchemy, or Sith sorcery, the power of the mind is one of, you've probably even seen that in the trilogies. The power of the mind is key. Now, the unique thing about taking any system and turning it into your own magical system is in my opinion, a great magical act or working, be it the individual or the group of individuals. And when you look at the origin and the creation of the Sith via the trilogy, I don't want to get caught up in too much of the Hollywood aspect of it. You could, as I've mentioned before in past videos, you could obviously see that George Lucas was looking at some of these occult orders, concepts, and systems when he came up with the concept, the darkside. Now, in my opinion, I can't validate or confirm it. I always wondered phonetically the name Sith, because when you look at the Sith order, it's very similar to what's known in ancient Egypt as the Brotherhood of Seth, or the Order of the Black Light, some known in the Egyptian mysteries, and that black light represents Seth, aka the Prince of Darkness. So one can look at it and see connections in various different paths. That's obvious. That's clear, for sure, no doubt. But I've always thought, and it's just me personally, can't confirm it, that there's a connection with that. Because when you look at the Sith, the way they dress, the way they are formulated, the colors, the black and the red. As we know, you'll see some depictions of Seth in some images and illustrations with red hair. There's a symbolicism in that with the color red in the occult. Red and black being the two primary colors in the Sith order, which is very similar when working with the Brotherhood of Seth, or Sith. And this by no means is a coincidence. We know there's no such thing as a coincidence, right? That doesn't exist. Things happen for a reason. So you can see the similarities in the Sith order, or the Sith Brotherhood, sisterhood. It's not just restricted to men. When we look at the whole spiritual philosophy and system outside of the Star Wars trilogy. So I want to make sure, though yes, people are familiar and connected with it via the Star Wars trilogy, but I don't want you to get caught up in all that Hollywood hype. Because some of it, again, there is an entertainment factor to it, and that's cool. But what I'm trying to say is, as we work this path, and those that are coming to the ritual, I want to make sure we leave the Hollywood stuff right where it is, because you're actually going to use methods, techniques to literally apply it to yourself on a daily, everyday basis to get results. So it is a very powerful, utilizable system. Okay, I just want to make that clear. When applied to your path, if you see fit and make the choice to use any of the Sith practices or principles. But again, Sith is nothing but Seth. That's my breakdown on messages that I receive when I work and tap into it. It's clear. So the work that we will do will be focused around the Prince of Darkness. So what I'm trying to get at is, when you look at, for an example, the archetype Darth Vader, we are just going to put the real Prince of Darkness in that place. No different. Because everything, all the other elementals outside of some of the particular names of archetypes really is the same. There really isn't much of a difference. And it's about working with the quote-unquote dark side, right? We touched on an important part in Father Sebastian's book last night, the foundation aspect and the shadow self, right? And when we get him on again this Thursday night, I'm going to make sure we touch on that. And that shadow side, as described in his book, is very likened to the passion of the Sith. And let me explain real quick. What I mean by that is it talks about the shadow side, the side we avoid, which is the very aggressive, raw, literally the primordial, chaotic aspect of our nature, the anger, all these things that we liken it to the shadow self because we keep it suppressed. We keep it, we keep it confound and buried within our subconscious, and we don't address it, and we don't deal with it like we're supposed to deal with it. Well, as we know, most paths on the path of self-mastery, left-hand path, a lot of the work is geared towards dealing with that, addressing it, but not only just dealing with it, not to address it, to make it magically disappear and go away. That's not the point, because you're not supposed to. It's supposed to train and show you how you adjust and can utilize that energy rather than it being something that's a weakness as far as causing you obstacles, issues, blockages, challenges, whatever. It could actually be used as a strength, right? And that's the whole concept. Passion is our power, right? In the Sith philosophy. Well, it teaches you how to harness the power of the dark side, right? And I gotta liken it to the scene in the movie, the last Star Wars movie. And I've mentioned this, I think, in a few videos back. If you saw the last Star Wars movie, and when the girl finds Luke Skywalker, right? And there's a lot of imagery in this. If you're paying attention to the imagery and what's going on the screen, she finds Luke Skywalker living like a hermit monk up in the mountains, away from everybody, and he's not wearing the traditional Jedi attire. He's wearing like a grayish black robe. So they're trying to show you, one, he's caught in between the dark side and quote unquote the Force or the light side, right? But if you remember the scene in the conversations when the girl finds him, and they're having the dialogue back and forth, he mentions to her something that's very important that we should take heed to, being on this path, right? He says to her, he found out in all these years of study, and I'm paraphrasing, but he correlates it to her that he spent his whole life really fighting for or advocating an ideology that really wasn't correct in nature. And then he says to her, quote unquote, that you do need to he realized you do need to access the forces of the dark side in harmony, quote unquote, with the light side to really grasp the understanding him. So he's conflicted about it. So they're trying to project him as a gray side, which technically he was at that moment when he's making that statement, because he was conflicted in between. So he came to the realization it's not all about the harmony, the light, and the love, and he realized that false concept of chasing universal peace and love is just not a reality. It doesn't exist. So he realized the element that was missing was the dark side, but he was conflicted on how to incorporate that. Because put it to somebody that might stumble across this information, it can shake your whole foundation when you get on this path, being in a previous system for your entire life for years, and then that whole thing gets shaken and turned upside down. So there's a lot of examples to be learned in that one scene. And that's what the work on this path is about, especially the work that we're going to be dealing with in the ritual at the end of the month, and the work of the Sith in general, is harnessing the powers of the dark side. Harmonizing those energies, the dark and the light forces, because the light forces do need to be utilized in certain situations, but you can't be light and fluffy 100% of the time. You will be taken advantage of. You will be utilized as a prey, okay? So I want to make that crystal clear. It's important that we understand that. So like many other systems on this path, it's about harmonizing both of those energies, but knowing the dark side, which has its roots in that primordial chaotic energy, because chaos is the most powerful energy. But the master, he or she, is the one that must facilitate and have the ability, the knowledge and the science to make order out of that chaos personally for themselves. Nobody can do it for you. Okay? I want to make that clear. So, that's what we're going to get prepared to do. What I'm going to get ready to do, and I'm having a chance to post it yet because I'm out and about. What I'm going to get ready to do is focus on certain aspects of Sith or Seth doctrine. And we'll go through those in the next couple of videos, just so people can get a focal point. And I say a focal point because when you're doing this type of quote-unquote intense work with the dark side, per se, I think the focus and intent needs to be more concentrated. When I say concentrated, it has root in the word to concentrate, obviously, or concentration. I think you really need to stay on a concept until you master it before you... This is not a system this is just my opinion. And if you work it, and maybe you are able to just bounce all over the place. I don't recommend it because it's a lot of energy when you're dealing with. And in my opinion, when you get to the work of strengthening the will or bending the will of others, it takes a lot of focus and concentration. So I want to make that clear. Again, that's just something I'm putting out there based on my experience. Again, as I said before, I don't tell people what to do and what not to do. That's entirely up to you. That's your personal business. But from experience, in my opinion on this, it's kind of better to stay more focused on a particular situation. I think it works out a lot better. You get results. And that's one problem that I've talked about before in other systems where I think people struggle or don't get the results that they're looking for or not getting the full effect that they're looking for is because they're not consistent at it. They don't stay on it long enough. They try to just do it once, maybe twice. And depending on the area of work that you're working in and what you're dealing with and the purpose and the intent, it might need a lot more energy and work. So doing something once or twice always may not equate to getting results right off the bat. I want to make that clear. I've mentioned it before, but I still think there's some people that don't really grasp that. They're looking... just like everything else in this society now, they're looking for everything fast, everything immediately. They want it now. They have no level of patience. They have no consistency in their work. Now, on the flip note, I've mentioned in the past, look, there are some people, it happens. They get results immediately, right away. That's because what they did sufficed. It was enough. You have to look at the flip side. When you're doing this particular working, and if you got to stay at it longer, it just means more energy needs to be focused because that's a problematic area in your life that you just are not addressing. So it may not take one or two workings to get it the way you need it. That's where the consistency comes in. You see this a lot with people that work money magic. I see this all the time. The biggest mistake I watch people do is when they start getting some type of results or moments of they just stop. And then they go into another rut or struggle, and they only do it again when need be. And areas like that in your life, you should be doing consistent work to keep those paths open. I talked about that road clear work. Doesn't mean just because things are going good, in your opinion, that you just stop doing work in those areas. I keep saying that. Look at it like doing maintenance on a car. You can have a brand new car, 2019, brand new tires, souped up the whole nine. But if you don't do the regular maintenance on it, that brand new car eventually will break down on you. Well, that's what happens to you on this path. This is not a path that spooky forces alleviate everything for you. This is a path where you alleviate and address and deal with everything you yourself. So if there's a lack of consistency, a lack of energy, and a lack of work, there's going to be a lack of results. If you say you're the god or the goddess, then if something is not panning out right, it's something that you're doing wrong. Nobody else. Because we like to use that statement on this path. I'm the god, I'm the goddess, this and that. Well, make sure you have that same approach and mentality. You understand what I'm saying? When, quote unquote, things don't go your way. All right? But anyway, I'm going to leave it there because I got to pop in somewhere real quick. I just wanted to shoot this quick video. Again, if anybody is interested in a consultation, a spiritual reading, Information on the upcoming events at the end of the month, the drumming and the Sith ritual, or the upcoming online classes, which begin March 23rd. You can email me at khnum19@gmail.com, and that email is in the description box of all the videos, all right? So I just wanted to throw that out there. We will talk soon. And again, Father Sebastian will be on the 7th, so we will redo that. We have addressed the issue. We'll get that right. So I look to see everybody on there next Thursday night. Peace.